Well, good morning. Welcome to lesson 3.4, the slope-intercept form of an equation of a line. Today we're going to talk about probably the most famous equation that we talk about when we think of graphing a line, which is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope, which is the rise over the run, and b is the y-intercept. Please remember that the y-intercept is where the graph is going to cross the y or the vertical axis. To write an equation in slope-intercept form, we're going to plug in the slope for m, and we're going to plug in the y-intercept for b. So if they gave us an equation as simple, or if they gave us a problem as simple as example 1, where it says, write an equation in slope-intercept form for a line that has a slope of -4 and a y-intercept of 3. So my m is -4, my b is 3, and basically all I am going to do is to replace m with -4 and b with +3. All we are doing is plugging it in. We're plugging in. Okay, so let's give you guys one to do. Let's go ahead and look right here on the same page in your notes. Let's write an equation for 1 where the slope is 8 and the y-intercept is -3. And when you have it, just raise your hand. The slope is 8, the y-intercept is -3. Remember, it's called plug it in, plug it in. Plugging in 8 for m, plugging in -3 for b. Yes, right here. What did you get?
Y equals 8x minus 3.
Y equals 8x minus 3. How about the next one, number 2? The slope is -2. The y-intercept is -1. What would that equation be in slope-intercept form? Yes, thank you.
Y equals -2x minus 1.
Good job. Y equals -2x minus 1. Does anyone have a question up to this point? Okay, good job. All right, moving on and having fun. Example number 2. This particular equation is not in slope-intercept form. Who could tell me what form 3x minus 4y equals 8 is in? Yes?
Standard form of
It's in standard form. It's in standard form of an equation of a line, which is ax plus by equals c. To graph an equation, now this one might be a little hard because if you wanted to find the x and the y-intercepts, you could, obviously, and that's definitely a mode. But what they want us to do here is they want us to rewrite the equation from standard form to slope-intercept form. So let's go ahead and do that together. And let's just take a look at it over here, and I will work that problem with you. Of course, it's worked for you, and I will work it step by step as well. Okay, so this is example 2. 3x minus 4y equals 8. So this is my original equation. And we want to rewrite it into what form, guys? Y equals mx plus b. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a box around -4y because ultimately I want y all by itself on the left-hand side of the equation. So what do I have to do to each side of this equation to accomplish this? I'm going to just change the color here. Yes, what am I going to do?
Divide by 4.
Before you can divide by 4, what do you have to do? That's a good idea. Joyce? Subtract 3x from both sides. So let's remember our little cheer. Variables to the left, numbers to the right. Stand up, sit down, fight, team, fight. But Miss Urso, there's 2 variables. Okay, well, who are we solving for? We're solving for y. So then anything that doesn't have a y attached to it has to go to the other side. So we subtract 3x from each side, and now we have -4y equals -3x plus 8. I'll take your idea now because I think it's a great idea. Now what should I do to both sides in step 3? Excuse me, right here, yes. Divide each side by 4. Negative 4. And you divide everything by negative 4. And what you get is y equals 3/4 x minus 2. Is everyone with me? Y equals 3/4 x minus 2. Okay. When graphing an equation that is in slope-intercept form, step number 1, if the equation is not in y equals mx plus b form, then I want you to get it there. The next thing we're going to do is to help you graph this without making a table. So I want to just go ahead and make sure that we are now focused on the steps to graphing the equation of a line. Step number 1, rearrange the equation to be in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. Class, did we do that? And our equation was y equals 3/4 x minus 2. State the slope and the y-intercept. Okay, so let's go back to our equation. Y equals 3/4 x minus 2. What's the slope of that line, guys? 3/4. What's the y-intercept? To graph an equation of a line in slope-intercept form. Okay, so let's go here. To graph an equation in y equals mx plus b form. Step number 1. Graph the y-intercept on the y-axis. Does that make sense? So what was my y-intercept, guys? So am I going to go up or down too? So here's my y-intercept. Good. Step number 2. From your y-intercept, use your slope to find the next point. Okay, so I'm going to give you something important here. Okay, use your slope. So let's just go ahead and make sure that everybody realizes. If m is positive, okay, if m is positive, the top number tells you to go up. The bottom number tells you to go right. If m is negative, the top number tells you to go down, and the bottom number, we're going to go right again. Okay, so step number 1, our equation is in y equals mx plus b form. When everybody looks at y equals 3/4 x minus 2, does everyone understand that the number in front of x is m, the slope? So class, what's the slope of this line? I can't hear you. Good. The other number would represent b, or the y-intercept. In this particular case, the y-intercept is what? -2. If there is no y-intercept, then we can assume that the y-intercept equals what? 0. Very good. And that's a great lead-in for that handout I just gave you on direct variation, and we'll get there in a minute. Okay, so step number 1, we graph the y-intercept on the y-axis. Our y-intercept was -2. I go down 2. Now I'm going to use my slope to find my next point. My slope is 3/4. M equals 3/4. So I go up 3 from my y-intercept, and I go over to the right 4. Are you all with me? Yes. Okay, so you're going up 1, 2, 3, and over 4. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and over, 4. And here's your line. Right there. Is everyone with me? Yes.
So when you go to like count that, you always count it.
Always count, make sure you count 0. You're counting from here. From -2 to 1 is 1 space. From -2 to -1 is 1 space. From -1 to 0 is 2 spaces. From 0 to 1 is 3 spaces. So we went up 3 because the slope was positive. And now we go to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Are you with me? Is everyone with me? Okay, so let you try one. Are you ready? So you're going to graph this one for me. Graph y equals 2x plus 1. First thing I want you to do is to tell me what m and what b are. What's m, class? 2. And we can write it as 2 over 1 because that will be helpful when we're going up or down and to the right. And what's my y-intercept? Okay, so the equation is in the correct form. What's the first thing you're going to graph, class? The y-intercept on the y-axis. Good. So what's my y-intercept, class? 1. So I'm going to go up 1. Good. What's my slope? 2. Am I going up or down? Why am I going up? Because my slope's positive. Good job. I go up 2 and to the right 1. And there's your line. Did anybody's line look like that? Could you please use a ruler? Yes? When you're drawing a line. Yes? You start from the y-intercept. So you're going to go up 2 and over 1. You always count from the point where you just graphed. Okay. You're welcome. All right, let's look at another example here since you're doing such a great job. You're doing such a great job. Let's write an equation in slope-intercept form for each graph found. Now we can do this by counting. I'm going to show you 2 methods to do this. So let's pay attention. First of all, if you look at the graph, you should all be able to determine the y-intercept. The y-intercept in number 4 is what? -2. Now let's figure out what the slope is. From -2, we're going to move up 2 and over 1. What's the slope of the line? 2 over 1 or 2. So now you have, look at me, this is like the easiest recipe you're ever going to make. To write an equation in slope-intercept form, you only need 2 ingredients. You need m, the slope, and b, the y-intercept. You take them, you throw them in a bowl, you mix them up, you pour them out into a pan, and you stick it in the oven, and there's your dinner. It's all done. So now we can write the equation. What would the equation for number 4 be? If you know, let's go. Go ahead right here. Y equals 2x minus 2. Let's look at number 5. Number 5, that line is falling from left to right. So immediately I should know something. What should I know? My slope is what? Negative. Good job. What's my y-intercept? 3. What's my slope? Down 1, 2, 3, and over 1, 2, 3. So it's down 3 and over 3. Good job. My slope is -1. Why don't you tell me what the equation is?
Y equals -1x plus 3.
Y equals -1x plus 3. Or y equals negative x plus. Are y'all with me? Now, the only difference between this and direct variation is, so you have your handouts on direct variation?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to get into it a little bit more tomorrow. And for people following and listening to this lecture, this has not been scanned into the notes. So let me just take a moment here and talk to you about what direct variation is. Direct variation is a linear relationship when the ratio of the y-coordinate to the x-coordinate is constant. It looks like y equals kx, where k is called the constant of variation. K is called the constant of variation. Very important fact. All direct variation equations pass through 0, 0, which is the origin. Okay? Because all direct variation equations have a y-intercept of 0. Okay? So if k is positive, which is like m, k and m are exactly the same thing. K, the constant of variation, and m, the slope of the line, are the same thing. If k is positive, the line will look like this. If k is negative, the line will look like this. So again, direct variation, y equals kx, where k is the constant of variation. All direct variation equations pass through the origin, the point 0, 0, because all direct variation equations have a y-intercept of 0. If k is positive, remember k, the constant of variation, and m, the slope of a line, are exactly the same thing. The line will rise from left to right. If k is negative, the line will fall from left to right. Okay? So if I said to you, graph y equals 3x, you could all tell me that m, the slope of that line, is what, guys? 3 over 1. What's the y-intercept? If it's not there, what does it equal? So this is pretty easy to graph these guys. So what do you graph first? You always graph the y-intercept is 0. Then you go up 3 and over 1. Did it pass through the origin? Yes, it did. Okay, let's do another example. Y equals negative 2/5 x. So what's my slope, or my constant of variation? What is it? And what's my y-intercept? 0. And so it's going to look like this. You're going to graph 0, and then you're going to go down 1, 2, 3. Going to go down 2 and over 5, correct? Down 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's my line. Okay? I'm going to hit on direct variation a little bit more tomorrow, but I would like to give you time to work on your homework as well. Okay? So, we are done for today. Have a blessed day.